Have you checked out ChevetteReport.com? It's the newest cigar media outlet to keep you in the know with all things cigar lifestyle related. From press releases to reviews, we have it all covered. Be some of our first members to join ChevetteReport.com and be a part of the next step in the cigar culture. ChevetteReport.com.
Welcome in, party people. It is your Thursday night hostess with the mostest, your boy Chief. And I'm going to take you that nice little sip out of my Cafe du Monde coffee cup as I sit here in my leather boy recliner in my new and improved studio. Brought to you by the fine people at Drew Estate Cigars and Natura Cigar. That's right, Chief Talk. Brought to you by two cigar companies, making sure that we bring you the greatest Thursday Night Live show in the history of mankind. That debuts at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Travelers Rest, South Carolina, in my little small corner of Travelers Rest. Welcome in to Jim Banker John, Gary Lindstrom, Mike Zakacek, Supremo Tobacco, Matt Brugger, Bob Ellis, Charles Adamson. Who else? Gary Lindstrom. I'm going to say your name twice, I think. We did just hit 20 people right out the gate. Just want to put it in there, let everybody know. Peter Giannis, welcome in. Jay Bates, Mac, the man Bergson, Texas Taurus. Who else? Okay, Fireborn. Welcome into the show. Remember, it says, hey, Bob, hey, baby. I think that's the Bob Ellis, not Bob Cigar. But let's go ahead and turn off these J Bates slow jams over here. Put this bad boy back to 50% volume and do this and this. The next generation. Travel with us to infinity and beyond as we prepare to go through the eons and galaxies and wormholes of the cigar makers of the future. That's right. Tonight's show is called The Next Generation. The Next Generation of Cigar Makers Explored, featuring Tim Swanson from Cigars Daily. Now, I would like to bring Tim Swanson on, but he's currently not here yet, so we're still waiting for the man, the myth, the legend himself to join us. But I'm sure he is closing up things and making deals and kissing babies and shaking hands and all that kind of stuff over with the fine people at Cigars Daily. So to bring myself here and bring on Bob the Cigar Guy. Bob the Cigar Guy, welcome into the show. Oh, there's 30 people right out the gate.
I just want to start off and say that I love that picture. That is a true, actual representation, because if you look at me in the spacesuit, I am more swole than cheap. It's a very slimming look, but I look very svelte in muscularity. So, I mean, I got to tell you, I'm looking good in the spacesuit. NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin, just hit me up because I can rock that outfit.
Oh, wait, there you
Look at him. There he is. Big swole right there.
Oh, there we go.
And see, cheap, little bitty, itty bitty. And I'm just saying that's how it should be.
I will say I I did use Photoshop's AI generative tool for most of that. And so I had originally made your person a small person on a booster seat.
Really?
But it wouldn't do it right. It wouldn't do it right. So let me go ahead and add on 3 weeks in a row, 30 or more on the show right out the gate. Once everybody's prepared for Tim Swanson. Yeah, I am the smallest of the. My head does not fit my body here. The original edit did have a much larger person, but he was of Pakistani descent, very tan, and it did not look right with my non-tan face. And I thought maybe I would cross a line if I tanned my face.
What is that waist supporter you're wearing? It's kind of interesting.
That's the joystick
to go to infinity and beyond, or
it's the
what?
joystick for the rocket ship we're on.
Is that what it is?
Okay, Tim Swanson's got the map. So let's come back over here to
I'm
this.
just saying, it just looks interesting.
Yeah. Whatever.
I'm just saying.
But again, welcome into everybody coming into the show this evening. My boy Law Ream is in here.
Law Ream's too pretty to work at Dumbarton Tobacco and Trust.
He is way too pretty to work at Dumbarton Tobacco and Trust.
Too pretty.
Let's see. Hunter Otts, welcome into the show as well. Let's see anybody else that I've missed. Maybe possibly so far. Yes, Chiefs Mini-Me. Jay Bates with the disrespect. Terrible BTCG.
I'm wearing my Jay Bates shirt, by the way.
Oh, the Ted Lasso.
No, Ted Lasso shirt.
Mac Burke says it's Chiefs diaper. No.
Depends.
They don't have diapers in space. They just have tubes hooked right up to your butt. That's not true. It's not true.
I was going to say, I don't know, but I don't want to know.
Jay Bates says, is that an extra small coffee cup or are my eyes bad? This is a regular size coffee cup. I just have man hands. No, it is. It's a little. It's basically my shot glass.
What kind of coffee you got in there, Chief?
Wyoming's. It's a weird brand of coffee called Wyoming's Weheske.
The bourbon blend.
Yeah, it's a private stock.
Yeah, there you go.
It's got a 57.3% alcohol by volume every bean. So I wanted to drink something this evening. John Burnett says, hello, all, welcome in. $1 million. No, it's like that episode from The Office where Michael's a little hammered and he's got the teacup and the thing is like, I'm growing to be a giant. Look at this regular sized cup in my giant hands. Chief's drinking an espresso. Yeah, that's what it is. It's got the kick of an espresso for sure. Jay says, I can smell the alcohol. Brother, that's on your collar. Chief got to put that pinky out. Pinky's out, Class A.
It's definitely not that Manischewitz or whatever Moet or that we got from Aganorsa. Merlot. Oh my God.
Merlot. No, not Merlot. Malort.
Oh my Malort. That's disgusting.
Chief's going Euro with the cup. Yeah, a little Euro. Now I do want to know before we continue into the show, what are you smoking? What are you drinking? There are some who have already said what they were smoking and what they were drinking. And I do want to know for the rest of you who are smoking and drinking out of regular sized coffee cups, what do you guys got? Or gals, smoking tonight. I have a Toro Liga Privada H99. Bob, Cigar Guy, what are you working with over there?
I have no clue. Musa, just something I grabbed. I ended up putting the humidor in and shifting a bunch of cigars, and it ended up on my desk. And I said, well, I'll just smoke that. But in honor of Tim Swanson being here, I am smoking a Filthy Viking a little bit later tonight. One of the old blends. I probably had it for 3 or 4 years. That Malort was nasty, Law. It was disgusting. That stuff was, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Malort. It's been a while since I've had any of the filthy stuff. I did not do a good job by going on and getting some of them. Gotta make sure I'm careful as to how I say things. I don't want YouTube to get mad at me. But no, I figured, why not smoke the H99? Because right before we started the show, where were we, Bob Cigar Guy?
We were at Social Cigar Lounge where there was an event, a Drew Estate event, one of our sponsors of Chief Talk, by the way, a Drew Estate event with Will McFall and Pedro Gomez.
Pedro Gomez. That's right. I did invite them to come over here when their thing is over. So there's a chance that the stream could get crashed.
It could get insane and go for hours
with a Senor Pedro and my brother Will McFall. But I told him, you don't have to feel like you have to, don't feel like you have to come out here. If you make it, you make it. If you don't, hey, enjoy your sleep, because those guys be running. They were working. I mean, that was one of the cool things about the lounge at Social when it's a Drew Estate event night is it is packed,
slammed.
You guys got there an hour early and still couldn't park right in front of the
building.
building.
It was still slammed.
When I got there on time, well, a little bit before on time, I had to go park down the way a little ways. Let's see. Chief is trying to class that joint up with his fancy teacup. It's a Cafe du Monde cup
from Nolans.
From Nolans, the airport. This is the not the right Cafe du Monde, Brian. I can't figure out what Malort Taylor. So originally I enjoyed the initial flavor. I enjoyed the initial flavor of it was almost it really kind of felt like eating some like pine nuts or whatever.
It was nice.
And then the aftertaste is just bad. It's really bad.
No, it's awful.
And it lingered for like 14 hours.
Shave your tongue bad.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
Can't wait to light up a year of the Duque. How do you like it, Michael? Oh, does Michael?
He said he's firing up a Duque.
Oh, year of the Duque and Yellowstone Select. Peter's got a AJ Fernandez Enclave Broadleaf Texas Taurus with the Doma Valada and Pepsi Zero. Jay Bates with the high quality H2O and a Rogue Mango 6 Milli. Dan Burns has got the Sweet Jane and, of course, PBR. Mike Morton, fellas, hope you're enjoying the night so far. We are so far. Laureen says, Malort from Davidoff. That was Garrett that gave it to you. No, we didn't get it from Davidoff. Oh, so if Garrett gave it to Aganorsa, we got it from Fabian. And Fabian and Terrence both made us drink it. It's on the
video.
On the video, which obviously has not come out yet.
Oh, and we talked about it too.
Let's see. The La Antigüedad by my father. Let's see. I splurged and bought me a Chevy Pepe, but I'll smoke that later. Nice. Finishing up a warped Cocodrillo. Cohiba Black is next. Snowman smoking an Avo Synchro Nicaragua. And then Screams Back says, technically, all of them are the right Cafe du Monde. Not my fault. You asked the guy from LA that's never been to New Orleans before. We were in Louisiana. You're from LA. It's LA. You should have known. Speaking of, I'll go ahead and show it. I didn't know if we were going to show it tonight or not, but since they're talking about it, I will. Yeah. One of the humidor that's right down the street from my house is the only purveyor in the state of South Carolina.
Are they?
They are the only purveyor in the state of South Carolina who got the year of the Duke.
I can't believe they let you buy a box. I can't believe they didn't do one of those deals where you've got to buy.
Funny story. I walked up into the lounge, right? And I saw the box in the humidor because they had a box right in it. It's actually a very beautiful presentation. I sent a picture to Chris Duque. I'll see if I can show you guys here on the stream if it doesn't get too glary. So right there in the middle of all of the Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust is that open year of the Duque. And I was like, oh, man, that looks like the only box that they have. Because sometimes they'll stack boxes on top of each other, boxes behind the boxes when they have extra boxes. And I looked up into the little roof area that they have where they do keep other boxes. And they had two of them. And they had this, it was stacked on the side just like this. And it has the year of the Duque, on the side. And all of the boxes that were up there had stickers on them that said something to the effect of, Tim Swanson said he is moments away. And Everyone left.
Don't you do that, because he might not come on. He might.
We
Well, I
are
know it's here.
crying on stream alone. He's got a great sense of humor, by the way. Anyways, so I waited for somebody to come. Usually at that lounge, I've got somebody coming in there
Fast.
and going, hey, what's you need me to help you with something? But I think I've said enough. No, I know what I'm doing, or they know who I am. Where it's like, oh, we don't need to bother that guy. I was waiting for
Who doesn't
somebody
know
to come
Chief?
in and me to be like, hey, can I buy a box of them, or do I just have to buy singles? Because there was nothing on the box that said only 2, or limit 1 per person or 2 per person, like they did when they brought the Senators in the first time. Senators, you can only get 4 of them at a time. And so I walked back out and I saw the dude and I was like, hey, you work here, right? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I got a question in here. He's like, oh, I'll be right there. And as soon as I walked in, he was on my tail. And I was like, are you guys selling the boxes for Year of the Duque? And he was like, I don't know. And he was like, let me call the owner. Now, I have to be friends with the owner, not like buddy friends, like we're best friends and we, go do family event stuff. But I've sat and smoked with him for, hours at the lounge before. He's a good guy.
We've done videos at his shop too.
Yeah. And so he was like, let me text the owner. So he texted him. Well, he didn't get back to him, and he kind of felt awkward that we were just waiting for a text. And he's like, I'll call him. So as soon as he called, he got a message that said, yeah, we can sell the boxes. It said something about what boxes. So he ended up calling him, and he was like, hey, these new Year of the boxes from Saka, are we selling those boxes? And I could hear him over the phone say, who is it? So I said, it's Stephen Finley. He was like, oh yeah, sell the box. So we went ahead and
got that clout.
We got the box. We have such a great relationship with Chris Duque that it would be just absolutely blasphemous for us to not have gotten them. And the fact that the only brick and mortar in South Carolina who carries these is 5 minutes from my house, I was at least going to get 2 cigars.
And we broke our rule too, because our rule is we don't buy cigars to review. We don't, because that chases you down a rabbit hole.
But this
is different. It's family.
This is family.
It's family.
Chris Duque has been a good friend of ours for many years. And when we go to this year, when we went to the Saka booth, the first person we talked to was Chris and Trish, which is Chris's wife, who we love to the moon and back.
You gonna leave Tim on red? I heard him click in. You just gonna leave him in there?
I was trying to finish,
dude.
Now, I was going to say I did when I was driving. Shouldn't have been doing this. Don't listen to me. As I was driving to my local humidor, I was like, crap, if I can't buy a box, I need to find somewhere where I can buy. And I did happen to look and see that there is a certain website, which I can't say the website because YouTube get mad at me, but there is a representative of that website who will who happened to have them listed online. So without further ado, hold on. Let me do this again. Let me do this because I put a lot of money into this production. Hold on. Wait. Remove. Okay. Enough of that. Welcome into the show, Tim Swanson.
What's happening, guys?
We can quit now. We've done had Tim Swanson on the show. Are you kidding me?
Here's my question, Chief. In the picture, how come you guys get spacesuits and I don't get a spacesuit?
Like, I asked that question.
What's going on there?
So my ability to use Photoshop and Photoshop AI generate is very limited. I may be a millennial, but I have like I sent you the photo that I used through Chat GPT, and that was just very scary. So I decided not to go that route. But then as I was actually trying to find a font, because I had come up with this whole entire other thing of us 3 standing together in a field of tobacco with cradles near us, like the next generation of coming up growing in the tobacco fields and whatnot. So I was trying to find a font, and one of the first fonts that popped up was a Star Trek font, and I was like, duh, Star Trek, The Next Generation. How could I not? So it turned into that, and I thought, you know what? If there's anybody, you know, whose life did not need to be risked doing spacewalks, it was Tim Swanson. So I gave you the map as the person to make sure that we were getting on our direction. I did try to edit a varsity jacket and khakis on you, and it also would not work.
That jacket's become a big part of my life. You know?
The albatross.
Yeah.
Now, Tim, we have already talked about the cigars that we're smoking. Bob the Cigar Guy, what are you smoking, or what are you about to smoke?
I'm about to smoke. I have one of the Filthy Vikings. My man, twinsies. I'm putting this out.
You guys planned this.
I've just gotta. Yeah, we talk all the time. We chat all the time. We just hang out in virtual land. You know.
I got this out of a humidor where I have a handful of these that I've been aging for the last 2 years.
Me too.
Yeah?
Me too.
2 years does like something very special for it. Doesn't have that same like super bright sweetness that you get like when they're fresh, I guess. But like it just settles into that really extra smooth, like crisp flavor notes. It cools down that butter a little bit. Hi, Gary. Hi, Gary. Let's see the tattoo. It's on a part of me I can't show right now, unfortunately. You know what? If you're in the Cigars Daily Nation Facebook group, there's a lot of people posting the tattoo now. So
yeah, we need to talk about that. I talked to Terrence last night on a Zoom call, and he was saying, make sure you tell Tim, make sure he has on the jacket. And then make sure you tell Tim to talk about the jacket pack.
The jacket packet, which is exactly the kind of ring-rhymey moniker I would come up with.
Stan Lee did it.
Yeah.
I mean, now I know Steven has lots of questions and stuff like this, but I
really don't have a lot of questions.
I cannot
have a topic show.
I cannot pass up the moment to say that Tim Swanson is one of the most awesome people in the whole wide world. When we first started, they FaceTimed me, and I was blown away. They even knew who I was, and they were very encouraging through this whole time that we've been doing this for 9 years now. I can call Tim, and he will give me ideas and advice and encouragement, and he's just fantastic. And the bootstrap story of how you became to where you are now is just phenomenal, amazing. I consider you to be one of the people that I strive to be like. And you're freaking salt of the earth and awesome. I really believe that. I mean that.
Well, thank you, Bob. You are always far too kind. And the truth is, you guys have done something very cool, and you've grown a community that supports the hell out of you, and a community of good people. And you guys are great, fun to watch, and the quality of your content is, I think, pretty obvious. It speaks for itself. It's very good, and I love hanging out with you guys. There's not a lot of like cigar videos that I click on and watch authentically. Like I'm still surprised when I see half of these guys out there. I'm like, oh, there's another one I didn't know about. All right, cool. But like, you guys have been long-standing, and I love the hell out of you, and I'm happy to be here. So let's rock. Let's do it.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Your check's in the mail, by the way. Make sure it gets to the. I'll have to make sure I have the address down right. So when we originally talked about bringing you on the show and having you on, we were kicking around some ideas, and we settled on an idea that it looks like you're pretty passionate about. And I'm excited to see, because you said that this is something that you're going to be diving into with your channel over at Cigars Daily, and so I'm really interested to hear a lot of your takes. Obviously, you are somebody who has been in the industry much longer than the both of us, and you have I feel like we've got pretty good access to a lot of people, but I feel like you get like the black card where you just get to walk in anywhere and flash your badge, and it's like I am Tim and I can be where I want to be, and they're like, yes sir, Mr. Tim. Where Bob and I are like, hey, we know Tim, can we come in too?
Yeah, thank you.
You are to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, you are the number one subscribed to cigar review channel, correct?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. The way that I say it is this, because this is safe. Cigars Daily and the Cigars Daily Nation is the largest online cigar community in the world. And I'm comfortable saying it that way because maybe somebody on YouTube who just talks about cigars in the course of several topics they discuss has more subscribers than me. Right. Or maybe somebody out there's got a bigger TikTok channel or this or that and the other thing. I think we've got the biggest YouTube channel, but I don't want to speak out my ass. So I say we've got the largest cigar community online in the world, and I feel pretty comfortable with that because I know that's true.
But well, allow me to speak out of it for you, platonically. That is, I would gather to say that you are the pinnacle of cigar YouTube. Yes, there may be there may be YouTubers out there that smoke cigars, like Joe Rogan has his cigar with Foundation, the JRE cigar, but he's not a cigar podcast. Yeah, he might smoke cigars or talk about cigars every once in a while, but your content is driven by cigars, right? And somebody who has been in this game, Bob the Cigar Guy, myself, for just 9 years, and we're still under the 10,000 subscriber mark, and then we had to go through the whole YouTube destruction, demonetization, and blow everything up. And, we were at a really aggressive climb, and then 2020 hit, and it was like, okay, stop. And here's 2 channel strikes, and don't do anything for a month. We're starting to gain a little traction. And I will say, I kind of missed that you were not at PCA this year, because the last 2 years, you being at PCA, you've shouted us out in your video, and we have accumulated 1,000 subscribers because of those 2 shout outs. So that was definitely missed. But I would say you have grown an organically large community. You are the largest community of cigar smokers on the internet in the world. But it is truly an honor and blessing. I texted you this earlier that this is ticking off the top of our bucket list for not only Bob, but for myself as well, because we have looked up to you and the way that you run all of your organizations, and we pattern a lot of things off of you. Bob he talks ad nauseum about when you guys were shooting arrows at things, and he wants to try to copy some of those things. I'm like, I am not filming that for you.
I want to get the Nerf guns, and I want to shoot him from his desk and me from my desk and do that. I remember I watched that video 100 times, and I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And that was at the very beginning of when y'all were just doing insane stuff.
Dude, Fireburn is up here because of that mention. I love that.
So is Tim Winters. He's in the same boat. It's really, it's fun to, like, when those videos dropped, it was fun to just go watch the analytics. I don't know. Are you at a point, and I promise we will jump into our topic, but I'm nerding out here just a bit. Are you at a point where you still watch the analytics, or you just kind of let them do their thing?
No, I don't pay attention to analytics.
Point.
No, dude. I wish I did. I wish I had time to do that. I wish that's what I was doing. I wish I felt like listen. I wish I felt like a content creator. I feel like I'm always trying to get to more content because I'm stuck dealing with a bunch of crap that has to do with the HQ. Somebody didn't ship something the way they were supposed to, or when they said they were supposed to. An invoice didn't come. Something broke. The urinal broke in the bathroom. I got to go take care of that now. And it's just always one of 10 million things. And I got a great team. I love them. They're amazing, but it is just the nature of the beast that behind the channel for Cigars Daily is this huge operation that runs and leaves me completely sort of flooded with stuff. The thing I try to do that I'm successfully failing at 100% is I want to deal with what's important rather than what's emergent. I don't want to deal with you putting out fires and dealing with emergencies. I want to be dealing with things that are critical. That's just the way my day goes, man. People always come by the shop and they're like, or by the HQ. It's not a shop, it's an HQ. They always come by the HQ and they're like surprised that I'm there. And I'm like, where do you guys think I would be? What do you think I would be doing? If I wasn't here, this place would burn to the ground. Almost. So, no, I don't look at the analytics that much anymore. Some days I don't want to look at them because I'm scared of what I'll see. Although the channel is still doing really well. Someone in the comments said they asked Google, and Google said it is the largest. Steel Bob said it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure with the. I mean, obviously, you're somebody that we respect, and so we have like you are. It for me. I don't subscribe to a lot of cigar YouTubers and things like that. One of the reasons is because I don't ever want to be accused of patterning, myself after somebody, to a T or something like that. And when I watch things, a lot of the stuff that I'm subscribed to online are like vloggers who deal with the tech industry because I'm big with my camera and all that kind of stuff, or people in the EDC community with guns and knives and all that kind of stuff. And I will rip off their convention show shots or how they shoot things or how they review things or whatnot. And so when it comes to cigar content, I think it's 5 people that I'm subscribed to, and Cigars Daily is there. And so I watched your numbers jump and watching the subscriber numbers go, and then looking at other people trying to figure out who's where and who's doing what. It's always Cigars Daily is right there at the top.
Can I show you guys something that I've always wanted to show, but I've never really had the occasion to?
Sure.
Sitting right next to me is my wife's dog, Arlo. And I want to show you, he has probably the single coolest dog trick that any dog in the world has. Sit, Arlo. Sit, wait. Can I have a hug?
Oh, that is so sweet.
That's special.
Isn't he a good boy? This is Arlo, and he's a hugger.
That's awesome. Is it a golden doodle?
He is a miniature poodle and an Australian Shepherd mix, and the smartest dog that I've ever encountered in my entire life.
The
love him.
The Australian Shepherd definitely. That's one of the dogs that I've always talked to my wife about wanting to have. I have a German Shepherd Husky mix, and he's a big crybaby. He just whines all the time with that husky whine, but he's super smart. Now he will not jump up and give me a hug. So your dog is definitely.
Allison taught him that. That word hug. When you say it, he knows it's time to get real. It's time to get into me. See, he says, "I want you to see into me," and he gets as close as he can. All right, good boy. Come on. All right, let's dive in. Let's get into the business of cigars, boys.
Absolutely. So we had kicked around some ideas, and the one that we ended up falling on was the and to quote it directly. Let me come over here and pull up the quote direct so that I don't mess up saying. So I said, I think it's really good for conversation. The next generation of cigars, talking about cigar brands, strong next generation cigar makers coming up. And then you listed out EPC, Perdomo, My Father, Espinosa, etc. Now, I do not happen to know a lot about those brands, but I will say it kind of worked out in my favor that we went to one of the PCA panels the first day, the Friday that they do all the panels and the classes or whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
And I really don't like going to those. But when I found out one of them was a panel of basically the next generation of who was it? Plasencia. And then there was another brand that they did.
Casa Carrillo and
Casa Carrillo.
Kiner Cigars.
And one of the things that I kind of I had never thought about when it came to the conversation with the grandson or son of Plasencia was, his family didn't force him into it, and that he ended up kind of going into it genuinely as interested in the business and interested in following the patterns of his family before him. And then he talked about his kids, and actually he left out of the airport the same exact time that I did, and his kids are very small. But he said that, there's not going to be any pressure on his kids when they get to that age, when he's old and wanting to try to pass the torch off. But he hopes that, it kind of works out genuinely for them, how it worked out genuinely for him as well. And I think back to how Chief Talk kind of got its genesis, where originally when Bob the Cigar Guy started the channel, it was just Bob the Cigar Guy. And then I got kind of like frustrated with the quality. And I was like, hey, allow me to edit some of these videos for you on iMovie. And then it was, okay, we've got 1,000 subscribers, because it used to be you had to have 1,000 subscribers to be able to live stream. So we got to our first 1,000 subscribers, and we started doing live streams. And I was like, yeah, I can figure this live stream thing out. It's no problem. Wrong. Went through a lot of hiccups and bumps in between. The the start and where we're at now, with much more of a roof to get to. But I kind of just got into the fold. I used to say I didn't mind helping out with the channel, and I wanted to be the guy behind the camera, no face. And then I started. Now we're here. We're in the 7th season, and we'll start our actual 7th year at the end of May. But a couple years ago, we started when we hit January, which is called a new season. So we'll technically start our seventh year of Chief Talk in 2 months, a month and a half. And I thought of how I wasn't forced into this, and I kind of got into it. And now it's like I was on a first name basis with a lot of manufacturers at PCA this year, and it kind of blows my mind. I felt like I was a little bit of a Tim Swanson, but I really did enjoy the session that they did, talking about why it is that they wanted to come alongside and join their father's company or their grandfather's company. We had the opportunity to sit down and talk with the JRE team with Aladino, and how they're launching the 85th anniversary this year for the grandfather's birthday, and then how he has his sons, and then all of his daughters are just taking over. They're like little carbon copies of each other. They look exactly the same, just a couple years apart. And so it was really cool to see three-ish generations working hand in hand, and knowing that, that it looks to be as if that cigar company, or the future of JRE or Placencia or whoever, is headed in the right direction. We have the absolute pleasure of being pretty good friends with the crew at JC Newman. And while Drew has been a part of the proceedings of JC Newman for a long while now, it is exciting to see his passion about his great-great-grandfather, his grandfather, and his father, and how he's a 4th generation owner, and how he has kids, and how there might be a 5th generation to come. So I'm really excited about your takes and your insight on this topic. And so now I will shut my mouth and defer back to you.
So this topic, I mentioned to you, I want to talk about next generation cigar makers, because this will be a big topic on my channel in the coming year and years. This is, to me, there's 2 reasons I think this is so special to me. One of them is that right now we're at kind of a critical juncture where we're going to see some transitioning happen, and really over the course of maybe the next decade. We're going to see these big transitions in big cigar families. And you already mentioned some of the guys. The Perdomo family. Nick III is already blending the cigar to honor his father. That's almost like the pistol that starts the race. Like he's doing the blending, he's doing the brand creation, and just apparently knocked it out of the park with the legacy. I'm going to do a big Cigars Daily Live to launch that cigar. Also, I became really good, hard, fast friends with Ernesto Perez Carrillo III, who is like one of my favorite people in the cigar world. I say that about a lot of guys, but him and I like vibe in a really cool way about the mission statement and the motto. Like they're making the change right now from EP Carrillo to Casa Carrillo, which is really part of that like changing thing. It's no longer just Ernesto Perez Carrillo. It's now about the family. It's about Casa Carrillo. So like this is a big shift for them. And over time, Ernesto is bringing in his kids on the blending, on the branding, on the process. His daughter is doing a lot of their marketing and social media. And so even along, Nestor Placencia, his father, Nestor Andres, they're probably one of the big prime movers in the cigar industry who have made this transition to a new generation. And so right now, there's a handing off of the torch, and we're in the middle of it. And all this comes down to something that Ernesto III said to me a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, when I was in Florida. I went out there and I did a series called the Cigar Heartland Tour, and I went out and saw a bunch of guys. But I was talking with him out there, and he said, Tim, I am interested in 20-year sunsets. I'm interested in who am I going to be working with in 20 or 30 years when I've done this for a career, and I'm like I'm starting to think about what the next phase of my life's going to be, that like I've worked with all along through this. And I was like, bro, that's such a forward-looking, philosophy, and it got me thinking about this very deeply. And so that's a big part of it. I see a lot of this handing off of the torch. That is going to impact. It's going to have this trickle-down effect all the way down to each person watching this right now, like Texas Taurus I see on here, and Jason Rittman, and Peter Giannis, Michael Z, Chi Town Cigar Podcaster, all of us, all of you who are watching this, we are all going to end up living through this shift. And the shift is going to be for the betterment of the experience of the cigar lover, because these new generations are going to bring new innovation to the cigar world. And we can talk a little bit about that. But also for me, on a very personal note, like when Jim, my father-in-law, pitched Cigars Daily to me, his whole pitch was, first he said, Tim, you think you could do all that internet cigar stuff over again if you had to? And I was like, yeah, probably. I mean, he had seen me over at TNT, and he'd seen the stuff that I had been involved with and that I had accomplished over there. And so he offered to be 50-50 partner with me. But his other half of the pitch was, if I invest in you, he said, he'd been doing business for himself for 40 years. He had grown and sold companies and been highly successful. And he's like, I'm 70. I've got no one to teach all of this to. I've got no one to leave all my experience, all my successes and my failures and the lessons from them. I want to leave those to you. He said, if I invest in you, then I invest in my daughter, I invest in my grandkids. And it was like, yeah, like that's a win-win-win for everybody all the way around. So for the last 7+ years at Cigars Daily, Jim has been investing in me, and he funded, he was my angel investor to start off, what we're doing with Cigars Daily. But now I'm watching cigar makers do it. And I think that for such a legacy industry as premium cigars, I am excited to be involved and be here as this is happening. There you go. That's my deal.
I really love the way that you're passionate about it. I love that. And it comes through very clearly how passionate you are about it. And I love that because, sometimes you bring people on and you'll talk to people during interviews and whatnot, and you can kind of see it almost becomes routine for them in a sense. Well, this does not seem like something that you're hyping up for a routine or to sell something or whatnot. This is, obviously you are cementing yourself as a legacy brand on YouTube, but also for your family and going forward. Shout out to Jim. He's that's awesome. The fact that he wanted to come alongside and not do it for you or just do it, give you the capital and you just go run and do whatever. Like he wanted to come alongside of you, grow with you, teach, and I'm sure learn as well at the same time and through. And I don't think I've ever really sat down and thought about the longevity of cigars in that respect. I think because I've had people say, or ask, or I've heard conversations in humidors about, when the FDA stuff was cranking down, do you think we'll have cigars in the next 20 years? It's like, yeah, of course we'll have cigars. But I wasn't thinking about the process of what happens in the next 20 years with those brands. And then I guess I'm also kind of I'm blessed to know some companies, and they already kind of had that figured out. Like I was talking about earlier with Drew Newman, when it came to JC Newman, like Drew Newman, I don't think he's too much older than me. He's either late 30s or early 40s, I would imagine, especially with just the energy and the vigor that he has and the passion that he has for his family's product. And this, just to hear him talk and to edit our first interview of PCA this year was listening to him beam about the 130th anniversary that JC Newman's going to celebrate next month. And he's the fourth generation. I get to put out press releases on our website, and I love that when they put the moniker next to Drew, it's fourth generation owner. I think that's really cool that they put that there. And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the companies that I'm pretty involved. We are pretty involved with, either through sponsorship or relationships, or just getting to hang out with some of these. And I think about like Drew Estate, right? Jonathan Drew just had a kid, and Jonathan Drew's still got, life and vigor in him, and maybe his kid one day wants to jump in. And what does Drew Estate look like in 40 years under the helm of not Jonathan Drew and the team that's already currently there?
Wow.
So I'm thankful for that insight, because I don't think I've ever sat down and just pondered my brain about the inner workings of companies going forward. I know you were talking about earlier, you wish that you weren't having to, put out all the fires at, Cigars Daily and change toilets and, make sure things are running around. But I can tell that your media brain has been kicking around in that, because that's, one, you're planning to make this something that you talk about, for the year, but also your media is based around cigars and the cigar culture and what goes forward. And so you're looking at, how can I, pair alongside or come alongside or work with, or at least get on the forefront of the information out there, to the company that's going to sustain me and your children and your grandchildren and hugging dogs and all that thing. I mean, I really love to see your passion on that. Bob Cigar, you've been really quiet over there.
I've been listening. And it's Chief Talk. It's Bob the cigar guy, so I'm smoking cigars while you're talking, and but I will interject this. At the PCA show that they had, it was an hour and a half long, and it was three different generations from three different families, and they all had different things to talk about. One is basically taking off on his own company. He does blends for other brands, and then the other ones are talking about doing blends and doing media. But they all say they will have a different signature of their own. They will have their own voice, but they pay homage to the people that came before them. They had so much high respect for the people that paved the way for them to be there. And then they said the things that they are going to be bringing to the table is, number one, they're going to become more efficient. They're working on hydration and fertilization systems, the drip irrigations and stuff like that, and how to do different hybridized seeds so that they will be drought resistant, and they'll be able to fight off mold or anything else like that. And then they said we need to get a little bit more technology involved in it as well, because most of this stuff has just been written down on paper on a computer somewhere, but it needs to become more common knowledge so they could share between companies. But then they said we will never not live up to the traditions and put out the quality. It's not like they're trying to say, okay, well, now we're going to figure out how to turn a quick buck on this. They still pay honor to all the men and women working in all the factories, from the farms to the fields. And they even said, one guy said, I roll my cigars a special way. And so I'll get a guy who's been trained in Dominican. They have classes, 90-day classes, and they learn how to be a roller, and they show up. And he says he's not able to live up to my standards. He may have skills, but he can't do it the way I like it. And so I will train him for a year. And he says the people that are rolling at 20 years old now are the people that are going to be the masters at 40 years. And if we don't invest in the next generation, we won't have a generation to follow. And I was really impressed with the maturity of each one of the individuals and how humble they were in all the things that they're doing. So that was a really, really introspective that I enjoyed a lot. I pulled a lot out of that.
There's a big part of this for me in what you're talking about, Bob, is there's a guy who is a cigar maker that I like a lot. I like his brand. I like his blends. I like everything the guy does. And I'm not going to rat out who this is. But this guy is not young. And he's not been well. And his son was working with him, and this is a guy who's more so vertically integrated. He doesn't have fields. He doesn't have a farm, but he has a factory. He's got the whole distribution thing. I think he probably buys his tobacco. And his son came to him. He was kind of training his boy up to be the next generation in his family of cigar makers. And this is about, what you're talking about, Bob, the master cigar roller who's been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years. That's the guy who knows how to roll the box press Solomon. That guy's got the only 3 people in the factory have got that cigar rolling job, right? And you've got the whole team of rollers who are all at different. One guy's got a year experience, another guy's got 4 years experience, a few guys have got 10 years experience. You've got all these different levels of experience. You got your quality control people. You've got lots of people that work there. who are all part of the generational family deal that cigars very much are, family business. But then at the top, there's a nice steady hand at the wheel, a nice good hand on the helm to steer the ship. And that's what my cigar maker friend was trying to do with his son. He was trying to raise up somebody who could take over for him because he is going to need to retire at some point in the near future. And his son came to him one day and he said, "Dad, I'm just not into this." And he just bounced. He wanted to go do something else, which you can't blame a kid. Let the kid live his life. You can't follow your dad's footsteps with the expectation that this is your life needs to be what your dad needs it to be, for sure. But now here he is, my friend, who has to figure out what in the world he's going to do. And it's such a shame because I don't know what path forward there is for him, for his brand, for the future of all of it. He's had a very prolific career in the cigar world. And so I watch very keenly now to see not only who is innovating in cigars and making a new project that's really cool, like all the stuff we saw come out of PCA, but who's also got that foresight to think, okay, who's going to take over here? Who's going to put their hands on the ship's steering wheel when at the helm when I'm not able to do it anymore? And that's a high value, man. That's a really high value.
I got to tell you, coming at it from being a dad, right? We started off Bob the Cigar Guy, never expected it to be anything, and then all of a sudden it took off, and Steven has always been integral in it. But, it's always been the way I want to lean. It's always been my content, and then to slowly figure out that I need to release some of that authority so that Chief can do his thing. And it's really easy to say, well, I already know how to do it all, and it's going to get done exactly the way I want to do it, and I don't have to change any ideas. And, Chief comes up with these ideas, and sometimes I'm like, I just don't think that's going to work. And more often than not, I'm wrong. And so I've learned to kind of let go a little bit with giving him the reins, because at some point I want to turn it over to him, and I just want to come in the studio and collect my cigars and go home. And now we've got more. The first lady's come alongside, and she's doing some things, and now she's doing live shows every once a month. It'll be this Saturday at 12 o'clock. But and it's interesting to be able to sit back, and you have to relieve your ego a little bit. You can't feel like you're the great white hope. You're the only one that can do anything. And just because it's not done the way that you want to do it doesn't mean it's not the way it ought to be done, or it's not the way to take it to the next level. And I think sometimes for these master blenders, these owners of these companies that have been doing it for 50 years, forget that maybe their father started the company and they had to have those growing pains with their dad, and their dad gave them the freedom to grow and to carve their own path. And so I'm blessed that I know that when I'm done, not anytime soon, Chief, don't start counting my cigars. That it will be in good hands. It won't be what I expect it to be, but it will just be the next iteration. Hopefully, I've got 5 grandkids. Steven's got 3 kids. My daughter's got 2, and maybe one of them will have the passion to want to jump on, and maybe this will carry on generational. With Cigars Daily, do you feel like you have, it's going to pass generationally as well, or?
Oh, hell, I have no idea. I mean, the most successful people create something that can outlast them. I believe that wholeheartedly. But, with Cigars Daily, I'm more or less I am Cigars Daily, right? So, I've thought about what that would look like. And if there came a time where I needed to do that, where I needed to have my mind on who would be coming, following me or taking over the reins, I would think about that. I'm at a point where I could do this for another 10 or 15 years without breaking a sweat. Like, it wouldn't be a problem. So I'm not like looking for that next guy right at the moment. Silas talks to me about it. He's like, "Dad, do you think someday I could work at Cigars Daily?" I'm like, "Son, you're 12 years old. So, in 10 years, maybe we can talk about it. You don't even know if you want like cigars to be any part of your life yet. You need to grow up first." And so, no, for me, it's really all about continuing to hone the craft, as I do. It's guys like, it's the guys, once you get, I think there's an age probably that you get to where you got to start thinking about that, and it's kind of maybe within 10 years of that retirement age, you hit 50, 55, you need to kind of like start thinking, all right, if I've built something and I intend to have it outlive me, then yeah, there's got to be somebody else around.
I think something you said is something I've been thinking about since you were talking last, was honing the craft. And one of the things that kind of stuck out to me was we were sitting in one of the classes. It was an in between time of the classes at PCA and or seminars, whichever you'd like to call them. And this guy came up and asked if he could sit down at our table. And I was like, yeah, man, we got plenty of seats. We ain't going to bite you. And he was sitting there, and he kind of looked like he wanted to have conversation. So I just looked at him and smiled. And he was like, so what do you guys do? And I was like, we cover media, and we're here for the trade show, Bob's Cigar Guy and all this stuff. And he was like, oh, you ever do anything with AI and all this other stuff? And I was like, yeah, not really. And he was talking about how he actually had some, I don't know if they were friends or coworkers or business partners or whatever it be, who were there at the show exhibiting like the process of integrating AI and things like that into the technologies of farms and whatnot. And one of the questions that kind of pops up is, as these cigar manufacturers are looking to pass the torch to, either their younger generation or somebody who's been at the company for a very long time, who they feel deserves, to take over the helm at some point. Do you think that, we're going to get to a point where maybe they have to pass the torch a little sooner because they feel like they need to have somebody who is well versed in the AI and the technologies and all of that stuff going forward?
If I thought that they were all created equal, I would say probably. I mean, maybe not pass the torch a little bit sooner, but at least listen to that next generation and say, like, hey, son, you seem to have a ChatGPT account. Maybe, like, what could that do, for our operation, right? But I don't think everyone's cut from the same cloth. I don't think they're all being created equal. I think it'll all go very differently. The thing about the cigar industry is just 20 years behind the rest of the world, straight up. Like you wouldn't believe the number of cigar shops in America that still don't have inventory control. Like you don't even know how many cigars they have. I think that you find probably more cutting edge technology in the fields of Nicaragua than you find in a lot of like mom and pop shops in America today. And so I think, I don't think you have to pass the torch to get the benefit of the younger generation. Like, somebody in the comments mentioned just a little bit ago that, some of the guys coming up is like Eric Espinosa's son is working with him. And his son does a lot of the graphic art over there. Yeah, Peter Jones says there's a ton of companies that are going to be passing the torch in the next 20 years. Steve Saka's son is involved in the company along with his daughter-in-law, and Eric Espinosa's son is involved too. And so Eric Espinosa's son does their graphic art. And he also, Eric loves to tell this story that when they were getting ready to do Guy Fieri's cigar, he was going to send him a box of cigars. Eric Espinosa's son took the box and repacked it so it didn't look like garbage and said, Dad, we can't send out anything. This is my beautiful wife, the Wrench. Hi, Wrench. I love you.
Oh.
What is this?
This is Slim's Chicken.
Slim's Chicken.
And that is...
Can I eat on your show? Is that okay?
You can do whatever you want to.
Absolutely. You're just
It's their blue cheese.
Oh, sweet.
Bye.
Love you, bye. But like his son is doing quality control over the cigars, making sure everything's just right. And I think there is a colossal benefit to I think the greatest benefit is when the emerging generation can have the humility to listen to the experience and advice of their elders. Because then you get the benefit of growing from mistakes without having to ever actually make them. It's the number one thing that I do with Jim. Jim has been in business now for closer to 50 years. He's made more mistakes than I've made moves. And he is the first one to be like, don't do that, do this. He'll keep me from steering the train off the tracks. And that is the highest value. But the other value is the reciprocal side where Jim listens to me a lot. Jim doesn't have a ChatGPT account, but I do, and I use AI more than I thought I was going to at this point in my life, and so I use it a ton. But you can see this even with cigar makers. A perfect example of this, like innovation with the new generation in cigars, is Nestor Plasencia. You know, Plasencia's rolled tens of millions of cigars a year, every year for a long time. And they've got the benefit through their generations of running away from communism in Cuba and then being driven out of Nicaragua by the Sandinistas. And now they're well diversified between Honduras and Nicaragua. And they're like, it's a super smart setup. But Nestor is the one who comes in. He brought in a geneticist from like Germany who said the guy could grow 100-year forest in 10 years. And he planted a forest there in Esteli. I went to it when I was there, when I was visiting him. But his brand new cigar also, the Alma del Cielo, the soul of the sky, this high altitude crop. I don't know if anyone's ever done that before, but that certainly is the kind of innovation you get with a fresh perspective from like the next emerging generation. And Nestor is that in a big way. So yeah, I think there's a high benefit to that as well.
Yeah, I think I'll put myself on full screen so you can eat, so you don't
I'm
feel
gonna talk and eat with my mouth full.
So one of the things that I wanted, as you were talking about that I kind of wanted to bring up to kind of pair with it was, we just dropped our Steve Saka interview today from PCA, and it was an hour long. And towards the end of Steve Saka's thing, he started talking about kind of the current state of selling cigars and how they do things in certain ways that other companies try to rape and do another way. They don't like the way they do that, so they do it this way, because the cigar smoking population is being, every few years is being inundated with younger smokers. And he looked at me and he was like, Steven's generation has a better bullshit meter than any other generation out there. And you can tell them, you can put all this pomp and frass and all these other things up there, and you can say all this cigars, the best in the world, or with the rarest tobaccos or whatever. And it's not like 20 years ago where you just have to take somebody at their word. Nowadays, I can just go on Google or ChatGPT or, Meta's AI and say, is this true? And then we can turn our phone around and say, yeah, you're just trying to make a whole bunch of money. But I like how you were talking about, leaning on that next generation, also needing to, lean and then tailor fit on the information of the generation that has come before, that has built this company to 10 million cigars a year, or whatever the number may be, right? There's obviously some validity in listening to those people. Yeah, they may be stuck a little bit in the times, but they've been a staple in humidors across the country, across the world for a long time for a reason. And so that give and take of the, we need to trust the younger people that are coming in, but we also hope that we have a relationship with them where they trust the things that we've done. And there's like Bob and I have learned, and more Bob has learned than me.
I was going to talk about that too.
How I have suggested things or said we should do things in a certain way. And he it was funny. It used to be back in 1978 when I was in 5th grade and took my video AM class, this is how we used to light things. And I was like, yeah, because you didn't have LEDs and you didn't have great lenses and all this other stuff.
Right.
But there's also a sense of wisdom for me to take from there and say, you know what, maybe you were right. And there have been conversations where he has had to say, you know what, you were right about that. I'm glad we did that. Or in case in point, the most recent one was a brand new lens that I bought for my Sony camera. And he was like, oh, I don't know if we need it. Is it really going to give us the benefit of the day? Are we going to really be able to tell the difference at PCA this year? And then he's been watching the videos that have been coming out. And he's like, holy crap, I'm glad we got the lens because you were right about it. Mm-hmm. And so there's definitely that give and take that I think that there is an importancy there. And then, as you say, hopefully you do have somebody who has been, following you as you've built up your cigar company. And again, when it comes to the familial aspect, because I'm not certain, it would be interesting to know the data of like how many cigar companies get passed to somebody else within the company who's not somehow related or in the family, right? It seems like most of the things, like you said, you've got so-and-so the third, or you've got Drew Newman, who's the 4th generation owner in the family.
Right.
it's like it's beneficial that those people have grown up in that system, right? And they've looked to those people like Drew. When he talks about his family, he talks about them as heroes. Like, it's genuine. You can see that there's like he believes in them, but also
I'm waiting for that day. By the way, I'm just going to tell
a
you,
fresh new perspective.
I'm not holding my breath, but I'm waiting. Still waiting.
Thank you, Bob, for telling the moment there.
Still waiting.
Well,
but I got to tell you, and I'll be honest. The reason Chief is called Chief is because when he first started, he was called Editor in Chief. We just shortened it to Chief. I use my phone to shoot my videos, and I do some basic editing. Steven uses a $10,000 camera, and he edits for hours, right? Well, the lenses we spent $10,000, $12,000 and all this stuff, and his quality is totally different than mine is. I mean, there's a space for both of them, but when it comes to tech stuff, when I need lights or if I want to get a microphone, or I'll go to him and he'll do the research. And now the thing about youthful exuberance is any new sparkly thing, they think it's a thing they have to have. And so you still need to have that old grumpy stick in the mud, get off my lawn guy in the background saying, well,
you do that really well.
I do. I'm good at that. Let's think about this for a while. And so Steven's got lots of great ideas. He does. And then he's got other ideas. And so, I have to have that filter. The first lady has great ideas as well.
My last bad idea.
And
don't.
I have too many. But it's a give and take, that's for sure. And we have grown, being a father-son team, we had to learn to navigate through those relationships because it is kind of interesting at times. Our conversations get a little loud every once in a while, but by the time it's all over, I think it comes out good.
Look, we did not argue one time this whole entire PCA. That is a record.
That's Supremo Tobacco.
It's also the fact that we did not fly together.
So Supremo Tobacco was the man. He was your spirit animal. He was your
He is my homie. But have you sent off the adoption papers yet? I know he's waiting on them.
I need to adopt him. That's for sure. He's awesome.
So with the trajectory of Tim, where do you predict?
Hang on. First lady just put in a comment. This is why I have to use my filters. I want to plant tobacco. That's the bigger family plan, getting back my roots of farming. No, we are not planting tobacco. We are not having goats and cows and horses and this. I don't have enough faith to be a farmer.
Y'all heard it here first. Bob's funeral just started now, man. That's the funeral dirge if I've ever heard it. No, you know what I just heard you say? No, we're not getting a dog. We're not getting a dog. And in the next episode, there's a dog licking Bob's face. He's like, this damn dog is licking my face. You're going to have tobacco seedlings popping up behind you in like 2 weeks, bro.
And now my wife has somehow chimed in on that we're going to have ducks. No, we're not.
See, it passes from generation to generation.
Uh-huh.
So, he's learning well, the young Padawan. I tell you what.
So,
dude, the value, I got to say this, though. The value in the next generation bit has so much to do. It's so much more than that. Like, for everybody watching this, the value is you get to know that the brands that you love will continue to give you more reasons to love them even more. The cigars will be as good or better. Things will change, but that some of those changes will bring profound goodness. But for the people who get involved in that, and I think anybody can learn and grow from this. I talk about the value of being in sort of the emerging generation, the younger generation. You're a millennial, you're a gen, whatever the hell you are, and you listen to and learn from these older guys. I'm blown away by how much time I sit and learn from Jim just by being around him. He's 77 years old, and so what he goes through on a daily basis is what I will someday, God willing, go through. And I not looking forward to any of it. And I tell him that. Like every day when he comes to the shop, he comes in, I'm like, hey, good morning. How you doing, Dad? And he goes, well, I woke up. And it's like this whole litany of things in his world that are just troublesome. And some of it is the fact that he can't do all the stuff he used to be able to do. And that's very frustrating. So there's a minutia to those relationships that's really bold and powerful, that the imparting, it's about more than, here's what I learned during my career. for the cigar families. Like it's for Nick Perdomo to Nicholas Perdomo III. It's about so much more than, hey, I'm going to hand over the reins of Perdomo someday. It's like imparting a bit of yourself to that person.
I will say, I feel like I do hear from you often, Bob, or Pop's dad over there. How you doing today, Dad? Oh, I'm ready. That's also another nice thing about our housing accommodations in PCA. Going back to the not arguing, is we didn't have to stay in the same room this time.
Yes, because he plays that stupid white noise. The millennials can't sleep.
I didn't play white
nothing.
noise one time.
Oh my
this trip
gosh,
I didn't
that
want
white noise, and then he snores, and the gas that he passes, it's just toxic. It is. It's an assault on all sensory organs. It's just,
Don't remind Brian.
Oh my
Don't remind
gosh.
Brian. I do feel bad. He said one got sucked into his CPAP, so. I do feel bad about mine.
And y'all had 2 beds. I don't know why y'all kept one clean the whole
bed
time.
Was for
it's
sleeping,
just,
and one was for all of our other stuff. So reeling back into our topic at hand here, do you notice, and maybe I don't know if you can answer this or not. I don't want you to feel like you would possibly upset anybody. I'm not going to ask names or anything, but do you feel like there is a trajectory that you can see where this is going to be a successful passing of the torch in the next 2 decades? Do you see that there's enough companies out there that are represented in your humidor, other humidors across the country, where you don't really fear for cigar brand A, B, C, D through Z, because you notice that they are taking those steps?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We've mentioned a lot of them in this show. Nestor Plasencia's got a lot of years left to doing this stuff, and he's got just a ton of kids. So you got to think that's going to go well. And then, Eric Espinosa, he's bringing his boy up. His kids seem pretty committed. Steve Saka, he's an interesting one. I don't know anything about his boy. I don't know anything about how he's, with Steve Saka, he is the most finicky of cigar makers. So, like, how do you replicate that? Like, a lot of this stuff comes down to I assume that dad cigar maker takes his son down and is like, here's how we do it in the factory, and this is why we do this way, and this is why we do this way. This is why we don't do this anymore at all, right? And this is how it's done. With Steve Saka, though, it's Steve does a lot of the stuff himself because he's the only one who knows how to do it right. And for better or for worse, when he does it, it is right. So, like, that's one of the very frustrating things with Steve Saka. It probably makes him frustrating to work with, I imagine, because he's the only one who knows how to do it as well as he's going to. So it's hard to teach that stuff, and that's really between him and his boy. But there's a lot of brands out there. The Padrones, the Fuentes have always got a family member on deck. The Garcia family, they're bringing up like a bunch of people into the family business. You're going to see a lot of Garcias kicking around in many different places, and that's sort of more like Padron. Like, there's a lot of Padron, last name Padrones that are involved in the Padron cigars. Like the office in Miami, like you talk to a lot of Padron family members when you're there. They got a lot of their family tied in. So, I think that's going to be good. And I think it's actually really good for, I think probably encouraging, because a lot of people whine and complain about the up and coming generations, that they're basically worthless.
Right.
And for the most part, that's, I think, largely true. I think, a lot of these kids are lazy and don't have thick skin and can't, figure out how to get their pants on in the morning. And truth be told, this is an industry that's only for people who have super thick skin and know how to live through a hurricane. I think there's just a ton of it. I think the brightest days for cigars are still ahead of us.
Yeah, I agree, and I kind of feel like that was kind of a sentiment you could feel at PCA this year with over 50 new exhibiting brands at PCA. And I don't know if that's just because they moved it back to New Orleans for the next 2 years, or there just happens to be an uptick. Obviously, you would have a very good viewpoint into that with sales and things of the such at the headquarters. And so I'm sure you can see a real-time quantifiable data with that. Now,
as we continue to grow as a channel, that's like our finger on the pulse, right?
Sure.
We're not growing, thousands of subscribers a month or something like that, but we are continuing to grow, and that's because we get popped up in recommendeds, or people saw us at the trade show, or
Tim Swanson mentions our name.
Himself dropped our name on his show. Ultimately, it does seem to be like we were at a cigar event tonight before we came over here. Drew Estate had an event at a lounge right down the road from Bob from his house, and Will McFall is our territory rep, and then he also had Pedro Gomez with him for the event, and so we went up there, and it's just really great to see a lounge so full that they have to have people go sit outside on folding chairs because there just wasn't enough room on the inside. And I feel like that's something that's starting to become more commonplace with events, because people are, I don't know what it is. People getting older, or, athletes are smoking cigars. And so people say, oh, that athlete smoked that cigar, so I want to go find that cigar as well. But it definitely does seem, I think I agree with you, the brightest days of the cigar industry are ahead of us. And that's a breath of fresh air, because go back to 2020, at least from a media side, it seemed like it was done, it was over with, and all of the viable channels that you could move off of YouTube to just never seemed to really pick up, a lot of steam.
Right.
Now, it was really encouraging on Monday when you guys ended your show on YouTube. I went over to Rumble and saw that you had 450 people that were watching over on Rumble. Your live show. And I thought that was really encouraging to see, because we had tried Rumble and there's no traction whatsoever over there.
I understand how to read Rumble's metrics, so I didn't even know that.
But no, it was encouraging to see that, to see your success played out, because ultimately the more successful you become means others who are doing the same thing at smaller numbers are going to start to see a little bit of that trickle down. Like if you find a video game creator who's playing your favorite video game and you watch them for a couple hours, and then you find another video game and somebody else is doing that, you go watch them. And so it's like, because these people have laid a foundation ahead of you, it's nice to to follow in the footsteps of those who are in front of you. And obviously you have blazed a very wide path going forward of cigar media, and ultimately you found Bob the Cigar Guy 10 years ago and told him to keep his head up and just keep doing. And so that's definitely an encouragement on the cigar media side, and how there does seem to be a pendulum swift going in the positive direction when it comes to premium tobacco and hand-rolled products.
Dude, I've got great news for you guys, by the way. This is like, cigar people don't know it. You guys don't know this. But today, like, outside of the FDA winning the lawsuit against the FDA and some of the monumental wins that the cigar industry has had over the last however many years. How beautiful. Here you go. I'm going to need another one of those. Your dealer's choice. Aside from winning the FDA lawsuit, one of the greatest things has happened for cigar lovers in America today, just this week, and that is that Dick Durbin has announced he is not going to run for re-election. And that guy hates us. I mean, every anti-cigar bill that has been put out has been like written by Dick Durbin and put up by Dick Durbin. The ones that would outlaw online cigars, the ones that would impose like ridiculous new taxes, like so many of the ones that I've seen pop up that have just scared the hell out of the industry have all been from this guy, and he is done with politics. Something going on has scared him away from politics.
Well, congratulations to everybody in the cigar line.
Congratulations to all of us. I saw that the other day and I was like, that's great. That's really, really great. What a good day.
Bob Ellis says he lives in Southern Illinois and he's glad to see the news.
Yeah, bro, that's what's up, dude. Yes, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this dude, but he's got a special special place in his heart for us.
So when I was at PCA, walking through PCA, there were still a lot of the legacy brands there,
Yeah.
but there were a lot of sophomore brands, people that have been there for just a couple of years. And then, like Chief talked about, there was over 50 brand new booths. Do you think that this is just a wave that comes in and then they won't have legs to stay for a long period of time, or do you think that this is the next big cigar boom? Do you think that there's going to be a lot of manufacturers coming out with a lot of new blends, a lot of new whatever, and just explode the lifestyle and the options that we can have?
There's a few pieces to that. No, I don't think there's a bunch of brands that are going to come along and reshape the industry, and cigar shops are all going to change. I think you could cut right now and go 5 years down the road and pop back up. Oh, it's Alma Volata.
Yep.
Thank you, my love. A wonderful woman. You could pop up 5 years, 10 years down the road and go into humidor, and the brand names you're going to see are going to be largely the same. It's going to be Fuente Padron. It's going to be Oliva. It's going to be Perdomo. It's going to be AJ Fernandez. It's going to be Espinosa. Aganorsa's clearly solidified themselves as a brand. You'll see Dunbarton in there. And, not to forget mentioning, Ashton will be around. And I'm like going through my humidor in my head, looking at all these brands. There are some other like boutique brands that have sort of now stood the test of time. They got the 10-year thing going on that you see. Room 101's got 15 years now. Warfighters out there, they're coming up. They're not going anywhere. They're about to do their 10-year, and a number of other brands like that. But boutique brands, no, I don't think that's going to be a powerful thing. And here's exactly why. I was talking with Matt Booth about this a few weeks ago, and he was talking about when he started Room 101. It was really at a time where, he came up with the other guys who were like the elite boutique dudes now, right? It's like it was him, Pete Johnson, and Robert Caldwell, and when they came in and did boutique cigars, you almost couldn't miss. And then following those three guys was a bunch of other people. Most of them didn't make it. I mean, it's like the beach at Normandy. I mean, most of them didn't get up to the shoreline, right? And this is probably a bad analogy right there, but the truth is, these days, from the perspective of a cigar shop purveyor or a cigar shop owner, you expel way more time and energy to put a boutique cigar in someone's hand than you do with a cigar brand they know about. And so if I've got, little Joe Dirt the Ragman cigar, and I got that stuff that's brand new, but I've got a nice selection of Olivas on the wall. Someone will come in and say, "Hey man, you got some of them Olivia cigars?" I'm like, "Okay, it's over here." But if I bring them to Joe Dirt the Ragman's section over here, I got to say, "Well, this is Joe Dirt's cigar, and the dirt that the tobacco grows in is really special." I got to explain the whole thing to them. It's a much more expensive proposition. Not to mention that for a cigar shop, trying a new brand will cost hundreds or thousands of dollars to do. It's risky to even do it without knowing that it's going to go anywhere. And so Steve Saka told me a couple years ago that the average lifespan for a new brand, they typically don't last 18 months. So I would say that if you see a cigar brand pop up and they hit the 10-year mark, there are some things you can watch to see if they're doing these things right, then they may very well succeed. But there are still guys doing this who have been doing it for 5 to 7 years who have gotten nowhere. I mean, it shouldn't be doing it at all. And so you see a lot of new vendors at PCA. I think that's a good thing. I think as people are getting into this and trying it, one of the benefits of cigars is that the barrier for entry to this industry is still relatively low. You could conceivably put together a cigar brand for 10, 15, 20 grand. You could physically get the cigars made and do the legwork yourself and get something up and going and get it started. I'm working with a guy right now who's actually done almost exactly that. But I think that you'd have a really hard time getting the word out there enough to be successful. That make sense?
Yeah, I actually, that's one thing I've always wondered about from the business aspect and of
as you own a humidor going to PCA, like what is the game plan? Is it obviously to stock up on your big sellers and to shake hands and make good face and whatnot, but is there in the back of your mind, is there like okay, this year I'm going to find one new brand to try to push in the shop. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of money on them, but I'm going to take a risk on them and see if they can go, because I want to hop on the next Matt Booth, right, or the next Caldwell or something like that. I want to be able to say I was one of those first shops.
Yeah, and I can tell you exactly. I can give you an exact response to that. When boutique brand owners come into to the Cigars Daily HQ to talk with me, I infamously take a giant dump on them. I piss in their Cheerios as fast and as hard as I can, and hopefully to their benefit, like hopefully in a way that's helpful. And I usually say, hey, what I'm about to tell you, I hope is a helpful thing, but here's why I have zero interest in your brand. And somebody making poor decisions says, any advice for a newer brand? Absolutely. There's a lot to consider with a cigar brand, and these are the basic things. The blends, the branding, and the packaging. That's one thing. We're going to set that over here. Okay. And people think that that's going to make a brand if you do a really good job blending, branding, packaging, and it won't. That's just a prerequisite. If you're not great at that, don't even come to the table to play the game, because there's so much unbelievably good, compelling stuff in this industry right now that if you haven't got your arms around that, you're wasting your time. So you got to execute blending, branding, packaging, crush it. Then they come up with, okay, I need my strategy for representation. I need to get, the cigars represented in some cigar shops and across the country, and I need reps out there. And that's a really troublesome thing. That's something most brands shouldn't be doing for like up to 5 years in. Like putting a rep on the road, it just costs $125,000 a year. It just does. There's just really not much of a way around that. It's just expensive. And so it's tough to put somebody out there when your brand doesn't really have many legs. There's one thing that I would say a newer cigar brand owner should be doing every day when you wake up. You should be engaging with the audience online and speaking into the conversation about cigars on the internet and posting and commenting and responding to people and sharing your experience with other people and like do that before you do anything else. Do as much of it as you can. You can't buy ad space. And you can't afford to buy ad space, by the way, in Cigar Aficionado. There's a few cigar blogs and podcasts out there you can probably do it. But you shouldn't do that when you can do it without a dollar cost. You can do it with a time cost. You can just spend some of your time, and you can get a bigger voice by doing that. One of the great successes of Dunbarton with Steve Saka is that dude is always online, always posting every day. He's out there posting some damn thing, and everybody can't wait to see what he has to say because it's always insightful and helpful and useful. And so when it comes to the newer brand thing, execute blending, branding, packaging, just knock it out of the park. Then just spend your time engaging with people. It's not like it used to be where growing a brand is a matter of going and spending 250 days a year traveling from shop to shop and putting cigars in people's hands and doing events, although that's still very important. These days, you can reach people by the hundreds and by the thousands by just engaging in the larger conversation about cigars online. And that's done on Facebook and on Instagram and on TikTok. And yes, you got to dance and play the rules and do the red tape, but you can also do it in Discord groups and on Rumble and like in so many other places that aren't as restrictive, that like go do all of those things. Because when boutique brand owners come to see me and they sit down, the first thing I do is open up Instagram, pull up their Instagram and see if anything is happening. Is anyone talking about you? Are you relevant at all? And typically the answer to that question is no. And I'll show them that. I'm like, here's what I see when I look to you online, and I don't see much of a voice or a presence out here. And so in a world where, for the aficionado, for everybody watching this right now, what possible incentive do you have when you try a cigar and it's really good to go back to that cigar maker again and get another one of their cigars? Why would you do that when there are so many different blends and so many brands and so many cigar families to try that like there's not much brand loyalty anymore? What creates brand loyalty today is community, it's engagement, and it's a face-to-face one-on-one interaction with somebody who's doing the craft.
Yeah, I 100% agree with especially with the socials. I think that that's something that is kind of overlooked by a lot of brands. That's one of the reasons why, like, I won't dive into it a lot, but like when I think of some of the we're called the New World cigars because we're not Cubans, right? The American market's the New World market, but within our New World market, there are a lot of Old World brands. They're brands that were formerly Cuban brands that market American cigars that aren't Cuban tobacco. And one of my biggest stinks with some of those companies is they don't engage the internet population. They just kind of ride on the coattails of, well, we've been in humidors and shops for 65, 70 years, and that's enough for us. And to me, it's like, yeah, that's successful, but I would much rather go smoke a brand like Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, because if I post this cigar online, nine times out of 10, there's a chance that Steve Saka himself is going to react to my photo or comment on my photo or video or whatever it be. And, I've tried to, in the past 2 years, I've gotten into the cigar product photography, and I've had some success with that. And you've talked to some companies like, hey, if you're ever looking for product photography or you want to, work with a creative or something like that, please, hey, these are my rates or whatever. And they're like, we're fine with our iPhone pics and whatnot. And then you go and look at their Instagram and it's low quality pics. And the only comments that are in the bottom are either bots or just a bunch of emojis. And I think that eventually kind of how we're talking about the future of the cigar, the cigar generation going forward, I think you're going to have to, brands are going to have to realize at some point, and I think some brands are realizing it. Obviously, you have the brands, you talked about the brands that were celebrating 10 years. It was crazy for me for 3 of our interviews. It was their 10-year anniversary. Steve Saka with Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, Nicholas Melillo with Foundation, and James Brown with Black Label Trading. And all 3 of those were this was their 10-year. Now, Saka's technically at the end of the year for 10 years. But, that those 3 companies are only 10 years. And some of those companies feel the dynamic of those companies feels like they've been around forever. But I think a part of that is because somebody who's chronically online, like you were talking about with Steve Saka, they're everywhere. They're posting stories. They're tagging comments or using creatives or collaborating with the Instagram feature with collaborations and things like that. They are using, the media to help push their name. And I think one of the reasons, Steve Saka makes fantastic cigars, right? Steve Saka said in our interview with him that he thinks that he's probably the best company out there. And I'm sure everybody would say this, but I'm pretty sure I agree with him that he's the best company that blend for blend from bottom to top, nobody can beat him. And, because in his reasoning was, it's like every cigar that we put out there, none of them are dog rockets. None of them are stinkers. Where you have some companies that they really there's a lot of people who shy away from part of their portfolio because it just felt, they're your cheaper cigars, but it really feels like you made these the cheaper cigars. Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust cheaper cigars are the Umbagogs, right? And those are fantastic cigars. I'm my number 2 cigar of the year last year, the Ronzback.
Yeah.
It's not like he just said, well, I'm going to make an $8 cigar, so let's just throw our crap fillers in here or whatever it be. It's let me repurpose these Sin Compromisos into another cigar and sell it for cheaper because we've already paid the money for this. And so I agreed with him when it came to the aspect of him saying that, from top to bottom, he felt like he was probably, top tier. Obviously, there are people out there who are going to disagree because they're big brand lovers of whoever it be. But I think one of the things about Saka's success is, one, all the cigars that he blends are to his palate. All the cigars that he blends are cigars that he wants to smoke and wants to enjoy. So he's not just putting something out there just to put something out there.
Right.
And then he is chronically online. You know, how many times do you log on to Facebook and see Steve Saka here with Dumbarton Tobacco and Trust and smoking my cigar and commenting on the Facebook groups with the, you know, and then doing the promos that he does throughout the year. And I mean, you guys are about to launch, you know, with him, and I'm sure that's going to be wildly successful because it seems like everything Steve Saka touches turns to gold. So
Sure.
that's incredible to be exciting for what you guys have coming up.
So there's two sides to this cigar making game, and this is any art, and so it lays out like this: art versus commerce. They're two different sides of a spectrum, and for a cigar maker, you're going to be about one of these two things. So you're either about the art, where you make what you love, what you want to smoke, and what you want to enjoy. Hope other people like that too. But you're going to make what you love regardless of whether or not other people love it. Then on the other side is the commerce side. And that is the guy who's like, all right, my catalog has a Connecticut and it has a Habano, but I don't really have a Maduro, and I'm missing out on these Maduro guys. So my catalog needs a Maduro. Commerce dictates that I need a Maduro, so now I got to make a Maduro. And for better or for worse, you make a Maduro and you put it out there, and you hope that you've, you know, sort of appeased or given a good experience to those guys who like full-bodied cigars. And they're two very different philosophies on creating art. Music works identically to this, right? Most other art forms work identically to this. There are a lot of artists out there, musicians, who make music that they love that can't turn it into money. One of the most famous people in all of history who did this in music was Amadeus Mozart, right? Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. The dude was buried in a pauper's grave because he did not know how to turn his art into money.
Mm.
But then you get like other people who have done a profoundly good job at that. You know, you look at, you know, today, an artist like Taylor Swift. She doesn't even write a lot of her own music. She's good at, I guess, playing it. Lots of people like her music. I don't listen to it, but like, she's really good at it. She's the first female artist to be worth like $1 billion. But what she does because her audience demands it. It's not like she's got a hopeless need to write songs about having her heart broken again and again and again. So in the cigar world, you can look at most brands and you can see what this is about. Is this art or is this more commerce? And just because it's commerce doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that you're kind of informed about what am I getting myself into. Steve Saka is the one guy you can point to and say, he's about the art. To him, it's the art first and the commerce second. He does the commerce like he's like, yeah, I'll get around to that. But he does get around to it and do better than most other people. But truthfully, he's the one guy that really excels and has been able to turn that art into craft. Most of the other guys are commerce guys, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the way that you put that. Now, one thing I did want to circle back to, you know, Steve has always said that, you know, the buck starts and ends with him. You know, it's, I'm the blender, I'm the decision maker, I'm the this and I'm the that, and that's all. But this year, he actually said that at the tail end of it was that he's actually starting to envelop Anna, his daughter-in-law, into the whole entire fold, and she's actually getting to jump in on some of the test blends. Now, I'm sure her opinion of yay or nay probably doesn't sway anything that Saka says, but it does seem like he is setting it up for her to, you know, definitely be more integral going forward, and maybe an enveloping into you see like Chris Duque, right, with the year of the Duque, like he's an unpaid employee for Dumbarton Tobacco and Trust, and he's out there slinging and selling the gospel of you know, Dumbarton, New Hampshire's tobacco products.
Yeah.
And now he's honored him with a year of the Duque, and you know, it's almost like, is there something of that magnitude coming for her in the future, not in a branding situation, but maybe that passing off of the baton in the future. I did kind of think about that as I was editing that video last night, having listened to him talk about Anna and her involvement with the company, and just how it's the first time that he's ever said that he's got somebody that he's doing the blending kind of with.
Now, I've got a statement and I've got a question. My statement is, I can't believe you're not a Swiftie. I could just see you rocking Swiftie music in your truck all the time. I could see you singing along at the top of your voice and and just going at it. But the question I have is, if somebody's not a Tim Swanson, if somebody's not a Steve Sock, if somebody's starting off with their own cigars, and this is not me asking for me, because no, we're not doing that. How long do you hemorrhage money into a company before you can really think you're going to become an overnight success and actually start pulling a profit off of it? How long does it take to get through that grind? If you do everything right, if your packaging's right, if your blends are great, if your message is on point, and you do social media, how long does it take for it really start to places like Cigars Daily saying, yeah, we'll take a shot on you? How long does that take to really turn it around?
There's so many different ways to attack that animal. If you're starting a new brand, you're going to start, brand X, and you go out. You can start with your first batch of 300 boxes, and then you're going to be reinvesting all that money back in to keep going. There's sort of like stair step your way up and start a brand that way, and plenty of guys have done that or doing that. And then there's the like dump a bunch of money into it and make it go, kick the damn dog till it runs down the road. And I think 95% of the time it's just not going to work out. If you do it right, you catch some momentum, you get a loyal crowd of people who are following, supporting the brand, believe in what you're doing. I think you probably find that on average, brands hit a point of like profitability in like what would be normal for a company, which is going to be like 2 to 3 years.
Wow. Back to you.
But depends on a lot of things. I mean, it's got to hit, it's got to run, and it's got to gain some legs. Like you have to have people into your thing, into what you're doing in a big way.
I always heard that comment way back when. If you want to have $1 million in cigars, you need to spend $2 million. It's a losing proposition for a very long time, and I was just wondering from your perspective, how long that time was. And
listen, the whole reason Cigars Daily did what it did is that when we started, I started by making videos. That was it. It was January 1st, 2018. I created a YouTube channel called Cigars Daily. Maybe it was January 4th, but it was the first week of 2018. And I just started making videos every day. And I was like, here's what I'm doing. Here's how I'm going to do it every single day. And some people thought I was loud and obnoxious. They still think I am. And I probably am. And it seems like plenty of the time people were like, oh, subscribe. I'm on board for that. And I pumped out, we built Cigars Daily in 7 weeks. That meant, moving into the building, getting the humidor built out, getting it filled with cigars. There's a website there. We had to get all of that done. I mean, talking about images, descriptions, every little thing that you need to do. We did all that in 7 weeks. Those were 7 90-hour weeks straight up. And all the while making videos the whole time, every day. Slam out a video and then do just a ton of work. And because of that, we had 15,000 subscribers the day we launched. And then very quickly got to 30,000 subscribers. And within 6 months, we had to move out of our first location into our second location. And then a year and a half later, we had to move into the third location. And so like it, like I said, it momentum came with it, and it really came from that online community aspect. But that's that. I mean, I would say that's a pretty rare case these days. If I wanted to build a brand, I would literally start with, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to do it. And you got to be careful on social media, because you can really only story tell. You can't sell anything. But you can say like, hey, I'm an artist, and cigars are my art, and this is how I'm going to turn my art into a reality.
It's definitely going to be a passion project for sure. At least from what we've experienced, is I think, and we're obviously at a much, 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 much slower pace than Cigars Daily. I mean, having 15,000 subscribers at launch is incredible. I mean, after 7 weeks. And one of the things that I've learned with this is I enjoy doing this with Bob. I enjoy more now because we've worked out a lot of kinks and a lot of things in the road. But if I didn't enjoy this, if I didn't enjoy smoking the cigars and producing the content and editing 450 gigs worth of information from PCA, there's no way you could convince me to do this. And so I think that kind of pairs hand in hand with like the whole next generation things. You have to find the right fit for somebody who you can say, okay, I can hand off my company to you because I trust and believe that when I walk away, not only is it going to be as good as when I left it, but it's going to be better.
Yeah.
And you see that with guys who are in the industry who have a 3 behind their name or a 4 behind their name, or touted as 4th generation owner and things like that. And I keep thinking back to what you said about the best days for tobacco culture, premium tobacco culture, are ahead of us. And I think you're right. And I think it's nice to hear that verbalized, because you never want to sit there and feel like you're getting into something that's dying. Now, in 2020, I thought this was just done. I thought
Me too.
the overlords were gonna take all of the possibility of media off, and then it was just going to go to word of mouth and people who owned websites and could put stuff out over there. But obviously having a YouTube channel makes it a lot easier, since they provide all of the tech other than what we have to do to produce. It is nice to feel like there is an upswing, and to hear you talk about how you're encouraged to see how the batons are getting passed in the future, and how you think that you will see these companies continue to go for generations, but then also an uptick in sales, or an uptick in companies, being at PCA. This year was a huge year for PCA too, because Davidoff came back, right? Davidoff not only came back as Davidoff, but they brought Avo, Camacho, and brand new Zeno Nicaragua, right? And so they were a very, very popular booth. People were happy to see them back, and it's almost like there's a healing going on, and I think that bodes well for guys like us, because if those companies are healing, that means there's more people who are going to buy those cigars, which they're going to be looking for more reviews and things to try to figure out, what should I be tasting out of this cigar, or wanting to sit back and kick back and relax with a 2-hour live stream on Monday night with Cigars Daily, or Thursday night with Chief Talk. And it's definitely one of the things that I do every week is I keep a tally on how many weeks in a row does Chief Talk have 20 concurrent viewers. Now, for you, that's like when you boot up your stream, you've already got like 75, 100, 200, 300 people already sitting there waiting for you to come in. But for a channel our size, one of the things that I try to base our Chief Talk metrics off of is how many concurrent viewers can we get at one time during the show. And so at the end of the year, last year we tried to do how many weeks in a row could we have 20 people on. And last year, every single show we did, aside from 2 shows, we had 20 people on. And so this year we've continued that. And every show this year, this is episode 17 of the year, we have hit 20. But we've started to grow this year. And out of 17 episodes, we are now 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those 17 shows have eclipsed the 30 concurrent viewer mark. And tonight, the first show of the year for Chief Talk, we have gone over 40.
Yes, sir.
So it is nice to see they're I don't know, like that healing, or so to say, is it's almost coming back.
How often are you guys doing short form content?
Oh,
Not as much as we should.
You're talking about like shorts and reels and stuff?
Yeah.
Not as much as we should.
I agree.
Steven does a real good job at that. When we do the PCA drops, he always drops a little piece of each one of the videos, and that drives content. But I do most of the content. I do reviews 3-4 times a week, if not more. Now the PCAs, as soon as Steven's done with with all the PCA videos. I've got like 50 videos I need to knock out of different reviews of cigars I got from PCA, but I'm not good with tech. Trying to turn that into a thumbnail or trying to turn it into a short is so hard for me. I struggle so hard.
That's tech, and it's more about, can you take the same thing and can you condense it down? So, Bob, if you're going to sit and review a cigar and your cigar review is going to be 15 minutes long, can you, as you're about to light up the cigar, take 60 seconds and summarize it? Hey, this is the Dama Velada. It is a Habano Rosado wrapper with Nicaraguan binders and fillers. It's an American Viking cigar that has got some real power and strength. I consider this to be a cigar that would pair really well with a nice, stiff bourbon. Dama Velada. That's a short video you can shoot while you're doing a long-form review, and then double bang for your buck. You put that, you take that, and if you can shoot it one concurrent thing, you just upload it and you're done. It takes you 10, 15 minutes to do. I mean, for as far as you guys for growing the audience and continuing to expand your reach and see those peak concurrents get up, to where you're consistently getting 50 to 100 people, that's a powerful move. Like, that would be a bold, powerful way to do it. People aren't, I watched when, Chief, you mentioned that in 2020 you thought it was over, like the writing was on the wall, and I did too. I thought we were done. And then as we sort of came out of all of that, I one day realized I didn't want to do TikTok because I thought TikTok was just for kids. And I was reading a thing online that was like about the metrics of the user base for TikTok in America, and 45% of TikTok's users were between the ages of 18 and 45. It was like almost half were adults who, like, right in the middle is that 27 to 30 prime, I just started smoking cigar age. And I was like, okay, I made a TikTok account that day, and I just started making 60-second videos on there. And I uploaded them on Instagram and YouTube. And there was a point in time where I was getting 15,000 subscribers a month on YouTube just because of the short form content.
Wow.
And so, I mean, you're talking about the way I think a lot of people are consuming, not most, but a lot of people are consuming content that way now. Steel Bob is in the comments. He says, TikTok is the devil. I don't know if I could pick just one platform and say that they're the devil. I'd be inclined to agree with you because they just treat cigar content creators horribly, worse even than YouTube. But truth be told, it did really, TikTok solidified a brand new way of consuming content that, I mean, half of America is on TikTok. There's like 150 million users on TikTok right now. So, I only say that to you guys because I hope it's useful.
So Bob Ellis, he was saying TikTok is the devil because that is Bob the Cigar Guy's number. I love TikTok. I'm on TikTok. I don't create content on there, but I've learned so many. I barbecue, home-based professionally barbecue, and I've learned so much about barbecuing through TikTok. I also learned a lot about camera gear and stuff on TikTok as well. But every time we bring it up, Bob Cigar, TikTok the devil, kind of like go.
It's our shtick, the
Bobby
old man, the
Boucher.
young man, and TikTok's the devil, devil. And so we've been doing that for a while. But TikTok's not what TikTok used to be. And,
No, it's not.
Because it used to be, because I tried to get on TikTok and look at TikTok, and I don't need to see girls in middle school and high school doing dances that girls that are 30 shouldn't be doing.
That's your algorithm.
Bro, yeah, when I go on TikTok, it's just videos about crypto. That's basically all it is.
I've been off it for so long, but I do need to do more YouTube shorts and Facebook Reels and stuff like that. That's just just need to bite the bullet and learn how to do it.
Creeping to 50. Now, by the way, we're sitting at 40.
Oh, bro. We're just rocking. Yeah, I think you can, if the idea behind what we're doing here, is to create a space where people can get together and huddle and be comfortable, learn something new, be entertained, and all the good stuff that comes with it, then, some of that shorter form content gives you a bite-sized version of that where people can kind of latch on. I love using that stuff these days. Here's my strategy. Because the algorithms are so restrictive and anti-fun, and they don't want you to have fun. you can't like get on the shorts and like puff on a cigar and stuff like that. They'll shut you down very fast.
Right.
So I'm doing stuff like with Terrence Riley. Right now we're doing the Aganorsa jacket packet. He gave me this jacket. I promised that I would wear it and never take it off. I'm clearly not wearing it right now. I got fake tattoos made, so I was always wearing the fake jacket tattoo. Well, now we made the Aganorsa jacket packet, which is 2 unreleased Aganorsa blends, a Maduro and a Corojo, 5 cigars in a daily edition limited run pack that you can it's only there with the jacket packet, but also the fake tattoo. Everybody gets a fake tattoo, and they put it on and they post it online, and they include hashtag CD jacket. And I'm going to give away a custom Aganorsa jacket to somebody who does that. And so is Terrence Riley. So we only made 200 of these packs. And so your chances are better than 1 in 100 of winning a jacket, which for any contest online is pretty damn good. And so but it gives me the chance to create all this fun, engaging content around, am I wearing the jacket? Oh, I got the tattoo. Does that count as a jacket? Like, it's a fun, banter. And I do call other guys in the industry. I'm like, dude, do you want to have some social media beef and give us a fun, engaging way to talk about a project that we're doing right now and call each other out on some stuff. And that stuff's fun and it enhances that conversation, that's community about cigars.
Right. It works. And obviously, it also works because people know you and Terrence would never have a physical, actual beef in forever, ever.
Right.
So and you're such a great guy. Terrence is such a great guy. I mean, just it's funny, it's comical, and it works. I mean, heck, I've seen all of the stuff in the Aganorsa Acolytes Facebook page. Michael Zakovic actually runs the page. Michael Z here, so I'm sure he's inundated with notifications all the time about the jacket packet tattoos. No, I do like that a lot. And then when it comes to the short form content, that's one thing that we've talked about before. Now, with all of the interviews that we're doing, what I do is, so I use Final Cut Pro with all of my stuff. I can actually copy the file of my video, and then I can turn it into formatted vertical, and then I can just go find a spot in the video that I thought was really good.
See, there's a technicalities.
And then I can just crop out with Sakas, right? It was a minute-long reel that I posted today.
I think there's a value to the short form content, to making it for short form content. There's certainly.
Oh no, for sure.
From what I've seen, when guys are posting, I've seen a lot of cigar content creators who will do a podcast like this, and then they'll download the podcast and just try to cut out little sections and throw it up. That doesn't seem to get nearly as much engagement. No doubt you will make some great stuff from your PCA footage, but when you sit down and you're like, hey, I'm here to give you something. That's what a TikTok, that's what a short video, a YouTube short or a reel, whatever it is. I'm here to give you something really quick, and I'm not going to waste your time. And boom, here's the thing I made for you. I think that there's power to that.
Definitely going to start taking the consideration more, for sure. And maybe that's something that I end up just taking over. I'm not Bob Cigar Guy, but I'm chief on the Bob Cigar Guy channel, and because Bob is technically challenged, it might just be a bunch of real content or short content that it's chief talking about a cigar. So definitely a golden egg that you're I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, I don't want to listen. I'm not going to pull the example we talked about earlier where I don't listen to the advice, because obviously you got to a point where you were getting 15,000 subscribers a month off of it.
He just called you old, by the way.
No,
I'm just telling you.
I did not. I said he was wise.
He called you old.
I'm getting there. Slowly but surely. I'm a grandpa now, so it counts.
Oh, you don't look it. You look like a very young, spry 42-year-old.
Oh, thanks, because I'm 40.
Whoops. it's the hair. It takes off 2 years, so I was tricked. Well, thank you so much, Tim. Obviously with here we kind of straight off topic with you giving us the advice, and I'm so thankful. We are so thankful for that, and also everybody else who's watching. there may be creators who are deciding they want to jump out on their YouTube journey or TikTok journey or whatnot. So you've definitely laid out a lot of wisdom there. But also, I really am thankful for your insight when it comes to thinking about where cigars are heading, and that's something that I really kind of feel silly about not really thinking about myself, and not thinking about. I guess I've kind of just sat back and said, well, it's just going to do what it's going to do, and I have no say on what's going to be or not. But I do have a responsibility to pay attention to it, to see it, and support it as well. It's kind of like my ideas with the smaller cigar companies when they reach out to us at PCA. It's like, I don't want to tell a small cigar company when they reach out to us to come by and do some content thing with them. No, because there were people who looked, we are like the boutique brand of the cigar media range, right? And so,
Sure.
It would almost be hypocritical if I said, no, you're too small for us. We don't want to do any time. So we honestly will take what we can get. Obviously, we'd love getting the big hitters. I mean, Steve Saka's video always does well, and it is tracking very well, and I'm sure it will continue to track well. And we have some other ones that are coming up that, the number one cigar I think I've seen talked about so far from PCA is Plasencia's Alma de Cielo. And so we got a chance to sit down with Nestor and get a video and talk about the cigar, and so I'm excited to see what that does. But I am thankful for your perspective on thinking about the future and where it's going. And I'm excited to see where you take that with your live streams and your videos coming up, and the projects that you have ready to launch. I'm really thankful for that.
Well, I would say one more thing before we bounce out, because I think this is I don't want you to miss this, Chief and Bob. The thing that matters about Bob the Cigar Guy in Chief is Bob the Cigar Guy in Chief. I don't care what brand is in the video, because no brand is going to legitimize you guys more than you are legitimized by being who you are. It's why everybody who's here right now is here, because of you and who you are. So if there's one thing you can do for your audience to give them more of what they want, it's give them more of you guys being who you are, doing the things that you do. What brands come along, just pick the ones that you think are worth talking about. And that's it.
It's awesome. I got to tell you, this has been amazing. I mean, this is one of my red letter days, honest to God, for sure. I just appreciate the fact that you've got so much passion. You help out the little guys. You've got a great balance in your life. You're a family man. You're a man of strong faith, and you're a man of integrity. And I just love that. And the fact that I get to call you friend is just the icing on the cake. It really is. I really do enjoy the fact that I can say that Tim's my friend. And I mean that, anytime you're in South Carolina, Bubba, I got spots for you. It's our hope one day to come see y'all. Cameras or not, I just love to come out there and hang out with you. I'll fix your toilets. I will. I'll mop the floors. Just be a part of it would just be a blessing to me, honestly. And you're a blessing to me and personally and to the channel. And so I thank you for being who you are and giving me somebody to strive to be like.
Thank you. Well, thank you, man. That's a treat for me.
Well, if you would like to plug, please plug away. Obviously, everybody here knows who you are and what you are, but if there's anything you'd like to plug, the floor is yours to plug.
Yeah, listen, Cigars Daily, I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing with Cigars Daily's YouTube channel. Cigars Daily Live is on Monday nights. You can join me and the rest of the crew for Cigars Daily Live. I don't have our next in-person event, but Cigartopia is going to be coming up later this year. I'm working on a ton of blends right now, including stuff with Steve Saka. We've got a project coming up called Leche Pura. I literally just smoked samples of a new El Rey del Mundo yesterday that's going to blow everyone away. It's so unbelievably good. I got a lot of stuff going on through Cigars Daily, but that's my channel, Cigars Daily on YouTube. And if you're not subscribed here, dear God, subscribe here right now. And at some point, check out one of my videos.
Absolutely. No, we definitely appreciate that. So if you'd like to hang out in the green room, please do. We would love to sit and talk with you if you have a little bit of time. If not, we love you. Thank you for hopping on with us. And I would like to, have you on again later, when time allots to continue talking about the perplexing things of tobacco and cigars. going into the future. So, Tim, from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure Bob Cigar Guys as well, thank you so much for what you've done for us, for coming on the show, and just being a part of the cigar culture, making the cigar culture a better place.
Thank you both for having me here. I'll come back anytime.
Fantastic. Bob the Cigar Guy, I don't think you're going to have to. Well, you just wiped the grin off your face. I was going to say, I don't think the grin will leave your face for at least a week.
I'm going to be giggly all week. I am. I'm going to be telling everybody about it. You'll never guess who I got to talk to on Chief Talk. But I do have to tell y'all that we had a schedule change for this month because we're in PCA with second Saturdays with the First Lady. You're going to want to be here next Saturday at noon for the live show. You're going to want to comment so that you can win. And this week, the First Lady is going to talk all about gear, cutters, lighters, ashtrays, and all sorts of good stuff like that. She actually went to a lounge today with us, and she talked with a couple of people that really gave her some insight. And she actually chatted with the lady from ST DuPont, and she got real great insight. I was really proud of her. She was hustling. Me and Steve were just sitting there smoking cigars, talking to people, and she was out there putting in work. And so it's going to be I'm looking forward to hear what she has to talk about Saturday. But if you're there Saturday, and if you're commenting, and if you're there when the drawing is made, you're going to get no less than 12 cigars, a couple cutters, a lighter, maybe a couple lighters, an ashtray, a Travador, this or that, and everything that I can clear out of my stuff that Sarah hasn't seen isn't nailed down. So you're going to want to be there. That's this Saturday at noon, South Carolina time. Chief, back to you.
All right. Do this number here and put myself back in the virtual Chief Talk bunker. And make sure that we do say a big thank you to Drew Estate Cigar and Natural Cigar, making sure that this Chief Talk was available for you all and every Chief Talk the rest of this year. Big thanks to both Drew Estate Cigar and Natra, partnering with Chief Talk, partnering with the Bob Cigar YouTube channel to make sure that we have the ability to create content for you guys. I'm super excited, super pumped about the future. I'm reinvigorated when it comes to some ideas for the channel, and being around Tim, even though it was just virtual, is like a breath of fresh air. It's almost like I got the winds of cigar euphoria blown up into my kilt or something like that. So I'm all tingly down there right now. And maybe it's just because Tim's so handsome as a 40-year-old, not 42. So again, thank you all for hanging out with us. I hate that I didn't get to put everybody's comments on the screen tonight, but I do want to say I am super thankful for all of you who participated in the chat this evening, who liked and shared. I'm sure we've got 22 reactions over on Facebook. It won't even let me see them all. I'm sure you guys knocked it out of the park over on YouTube. We got up to 48 tonight. We got close. So now we have a new record to hit. That's our highest watched show of the year. So Terrence Riley, he has to come back on and try to redeem himself. I do have some conversations in the works with bringing some other manufacturers and some other people from other companies on in the very near future. It's actually a handful of companies, so I just have to get through my PCA. That's what I keep telling them. I was like, hey, I'd love to have you on. Thank you for talking to me about this, but I need to get through this edit stuff. I really need to do it, please. So thank you all. Love you all. I'm just going to play the good old-fashioned Ferris Bueller. I love you. Which one is it? This one. Peace.
Yeah. Time to relax. Whew. Man, I'm beat. Whew. What are you doing? What are you doing here? Show's over. Go home. Go home. Show's over. What are you waiting for? You waiting for another show? This is a one-ticket entry. Go. Bye. Go. Go. Go.